Hey everybody, it's Nick here again for Grayscale Gorilla. I am the Gorilla, and today we're going to talk about linear workflow. Holy moly, you may have been hearing a lot about it lately, and that's because linear workflow is turned on by default in Cinema 4D version 12. And there's a lot of confusion out there about what it is, what it does to your renders, and how it can help you. And I thought today we could just at least start talking about linear workflow, what it is, how to set it up, how to use it, and what it does to you and your renders and your life, and how it can make everyone happy and group hug. So first of all, I'll say that linear workflow is a big topic. It's not just a switch. It's not just a button. It's not just a thing you add and everything's happy. It's kind of a philosophy, and it's a way to work that you have to kind of understand front to back. It is a workflow. It is starting from the start and ending at the end. Everything will be a little bit different using linear workflow. And that's why I think this will kind of be a series of videos, a discussion, if you will, about what linear workflow is and how to learn more about it and how to use it. So with all of that, let's just jump into Cinema and take a quick look at what linear workflow is and what it is and what it means to me, really. So if you look at this render here, this is a scene, just a few spheres rendered out with linear workflow turned on. And if you're wondering where it is, where that switch is, if you hit Command D and get your project settings, they're here by default, but I just popped them up in this window. You could see linear workflow is turned on, and below that it says input color profile sRGB. That's usually what you want. We'll get into what all this stuff means, but this is kind of the default. When you open a new scene in Cinema, this is how it's set up, and this is what your renders will do. What linear workflow is, in a nutshell, as I understand it, and you'll get a lot of different ways to talk about it and discuss it, which is why I have all these statements before I talk. But linear workflow is the way that light should be applied to other lights, the way that light realistically falls off, right? If you just think about it that way, linear workflow is the process of making sure that all of the textures, lights, materials, everything in your scene are all kind of being rendered at the most realistic quality and the most realistic numbering and stuff like that. Why does this not make sense? Well, because, I'm still making sense of it as well. So let's do this just to start. Here is with linear workflow, right? Let's turn just linear workflow off and go to disabled color profile. And this is maybe more what you're used to, which this is a render. This is how it would have looked, this scene in 11.5 without linear workflow turned on. You can see there's a few things that happens. It's way darker, right? Way darker. Which some of you may say, if we just turn up the brightness a little bit, that will kind of get it back to how it was. And that's the deceiving thing about linear workflow. It's not just that it's darker or it's brighter. It's a whole different thing. There's a whole different way of multiplying and adding together lights that are either going to be correct or they're not going to be correct. And in other words, up till now, lighting and rendering inside of many programs, the way that it handles all of the textures and reflections and lighting and how it displays it has been a lie. The computer has been lying to you for years and years, and it's just now that the technology is caught up to where we don't have to allow our computer to lie to us anymore. The problem is we've come up with so many hacks and solutions and workarounds in the meantime that this linear workflow, which actually makes everything heavenly and also make everything more realistic and make lights fall off more realistic and all these things happen. The reason it's kind of a scary deal is because it kind of screws up a lot of hacks and a lot of workarounds that we've counted on to make things look nice in computer graphics. And I guess that's the best way to describe it is the old way of rendering was kind of a lie. It's there because that's how computer graphics and monitors and displays have been kind of growing up. But it's just now where, like I say, the technology is here, and also the knowledge is there, and we also have all of the programs starting to use linear workflow, and we also have cameras now. Holy crap, we have cameras that shoot raw data, and raw data is linear data. So if you get a NEF file from a digital camera, or if you shoot with a RED camera and you get those raw data files, those files can be linearly brought into either a compositing program that's working linearly or Cinema 4D. You could bring in textures that are linear from your digital camera, all ready to go. And let's hop into Photoshop and talk about, maybe try to spell this out. And this is from a PDF and a video that I saw that I'm going to link to below this, just to try to educate you guys, because I'm still learning this stuff. And frankly, I may screw something up in here. And please correct me if I do, because I kind of see this more as a discussion than me telling you what the heck linear workflow is, because like I say, it's still something everyone's trying to figure out. Linear workflow comes from the idea that the values from dark to white are kind of linearly applied, and things are rendered kind of in the right color space, right? Up till now, monitors have kind of rendered this way. And what they call it is, I think they call it a power law function. And what it means is, as you add more power to a display, what you're looking at right now, as you add more power to a display, it actually gets progressively brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter until just a little bit more voltage provides way more brightness, right? And what happens is, this is unrealistic. So what has happened is images, video, data, everything you see in your computer has kind of the opposite curve applied to it. And this opposite curve kind of combines with this power law curve and kind of fakes a linear display, right? This is all good, right, for now. This is all good except for inside the computer doesn't know that this is a fake, right? This is a lie. This linear curve only exists because this is so screwed up, right? So you have all your images, and they all have this curve to it that is only there because your monitor is screwy, right? So let's pretend that this value right here, now maybe we should back up and say that this is the amount, and this is the kind of dark to bright, right? So if you look at it this way, you can kind of look here and say, okay, this pixel right there is 50% gray, right? But it's not actually 50% gray in the file. You can see here the 50% gray in the curve is actually way up here, way brighter than it should. But again, that's okay, because the monitor that you're viewing it on is gonna screw it up anyway, and it's gonna eventually look like 50% gray. Okay, follow, I hope? What happens is inside the program, programs like After Effects and Cinema 4D and up till now have never taken into account that this value is actually this value, right? So what we need to do is bring this curve into a linear mode before we go into the 3D land. This is, you can also see how awesome I am at drawing. This is 3D land. 3D land has always been linear. The programmers have always rendered everything linearly. This linear workflow is less about how the program is working, and it's more about the pipes in and out of the 3D program. Okay, so here are your textures. Here are your images, JPEGs, video. All of these things have had a gamma curve applied to them. And again, this gamma curve is applied to them so that when it is viewed on your monitor, which again is a lie because of this power law issue, when it's viewed on the monitor, it's viewing properly. So let's imagine we have two images. Let's kind of break this down and imagine that there's two images that are linearly or that are gamma curve corrected, and you go and bring these into Photoshop or Cinema or whatever you're doing, and you want to add these values together, right? Well, what happens is these should be this. And if you add 50 and 50 together, you're going to get 100, right? So if we're imagining like 50% gray plus 50% gray is going to be 100. Well, that's not what happens because of this gamma curve here, right? Because of this gamma curve, 50 is actually way up here. You could, well, let's use the big curve. 50% gray is actually way up here, which is more like a 90% gray. And when you add 90 and 90 together, you don't get what you should, which is 100. So what happens is things get bright too quickly. Okay, things get if you ever tried to add something, use in After Effects or in Photoshop, if you've ever tried to use this, where is it? I guess I need a new layer. If you've ever tried to use this add right here mode, either in Photoshop or After Effects or anywhere, you're always going to say like, holy crap, that's way too bright. And the reason is this screwy math that's going on inside. All of this is a long way to say what linear workflow does is make sure that anything you bring into the program will be converted to linear before anything is done with it in 3D, okay? And then when it comes out, it's going to be linear until we add a gamma curve back to it to then view it on our display. And this is where it gets a little freaky. So we have 3D land, we have our images, and then we have our monitor, right? Wow, I am awesome at drawing. So this is our linear workflow. Of course, all of this is spelled out much cleaner in the stuff I'll link below, so make sure to watch that. But I'm also kind of going through this to make sure I know what the heck I'm talking about. But this is how I understand it. This is the old way. An image that has a gamma curve on it, which almost every JPEG ever taken ever in the world does, is going to go into 3D, and it's going to have the correct math applied to it, but the starting result is going to be wrong, right? So now we have this gamma corrected image inside of 3D, and it's getting all the math applied to it, but it's going to end up way darker or way brighter depending on which side of the side we're on of this curve. Either way, it's just not going to be right. And when it comes out, it's going to be freaking weird. And that's basically what we're seeing when we turn off linear workflow. That's basically what we're seeing. We're seeing that the wrong math is being applied, not only to the lighting and the fall off of the lighting and how far they go and how they're added together, but also the reflections. You can see the reflections are less realistic here. You could also see in transparencies and refractions and anything with a Fresnel shader, any sort of gradient or fall off or color will be viewed and displayed incorrectly without linear workflow. When you turn this on, and you say, I want everything coming in to assume that it's going to have a gamma curve to it, you then tell Cinema that, listen, you need to bring me the right image, right? It knows now that there's mixed stuff going on inside of your textures, and it also knows that when you spit it out, you need to understand that. You're telling Cinema that it needs to understand that it needs to display properly for my monitor because my monitor is a lie. And what we get is a more realistic everything, right? What screws up a lot of people is that they kind of assume like linear workflow is going to make stuff brighter like this, or it's going to make it darker, or they have like a preconceived notion, and there's no actual right way to say that other than linear workflow is going to be different. And it means that a lot of your tricks and a lot of your lighting tricks and a lot of the stuff that you've been used to are going to be different. But what I'm pushing for is for you to turn this on and leave it on because it is the future, right? Don't hide and regress back into a non-linear situation, even though you may be more comfortable with it. Stay in linear, learn what the differences are. And that's kind of what this series is going to be about. I'm sure we'll talk more about it. I'm sure I'll come back and correct myself as well. But let's at least get the discussion started. Let me turn off some of this, and we'll just set up another quick render here. And you can again see kind of what's going on. Basically, there's two softboxes here lighting our linear there. And you can see we have this nice light fall off. Actually, I'm going to give it more space to see our softboxes, our type, and then you can see these lights are kind of falling through the letters. You get this nice realistic fall off here, and that's all good, right? Let's again go back to how it used to be, and you can see now how quickly it gets dark, right? When it gets to dark mode, it falls off very fast. And again, that's because of this gamma curve. When it gets dark, it's going to get crazy dark, right? Not good. Now, of course, like you say, we can always try to brighten this up. These are all the fakes that we've tried to do over the years to fake it. But now you're seeing we're just blowing this out up here, and we're not really pushing the light out further. Just by flipping on linear workflow and telling it that your textures are coming in the correct order, you're going to have more realistic renders, and things will work better toward the future. Now, let's look at this one more time and just kind of end this here so we could keep the discussion going. I would love to hear your comments and what you know about linear workflow and what it's changed already in your life. You know, have you used it? Well, we'll get to all that at the end. But what I did want to add was there's another part of this linear workflow. The idea is that linear workflow really means not just a switch that we check inside of our 3D package. It's the idea that our images are all converted to linear. It then goes into 3D land, right? Cinema in this case. And it's being added and multiplied, and lights being applied to these things, and all this stuff's going on linearly. Then it's going to get kicked out again linearly, right? We don't want to apply anything to it. Then it's going to go into, let's say, After Effects. And in After Effects, you can actually work in a linear mode. Just like in 3D, After Effects has had this for a few years now. You can bring your linear files, which again will look ugly. These are going to look ugly on your screen without color correcting them first. But you're always going to get better math and prettier images if you keep it linear, right? So you're going to bring these linear images into After Effects, turn on linear mode, work in linear again, finally render out your last thing, and then apply your gamma curve to it. And what this does is allow it to be viewed on a screen like we're watching. Okay? So this is the workflow. When you hear linear workflow, this is it. Bring your images in. Now, either you're going to bring them in linearly, like I said, the Red cameras can shoot video linear, which is beautiful. You can also bring in NEF files and any raw data files from your cameras. And then if you're not bringing in linear files, you have to convert them from gamma corrected, which are JPEGs, TIFFs. Most other files are going to be gamma corrected. You need to pull the gamma out to make it linear first, then go through this whole process with your linear files, and then at the end, pull it back to your gamma corrected space so that it is visible on the screen and it looks correct on your monitor, because again, the monitor is lying to you. Anyway, that's how I see it. This is a big old mess. Don't ever make me draw again. But here's the bottom line. I would love to hear your thoughts. How have you been dealing with linear workflow? What does it mean? Do you have any questions about it? Have you read something that makes sense, that helps this make sense for everybody else? Because as you can see, it is a complicated topic. There's a lot of little details that go along with this, including rendering at higher bit rates, which we didn't even talk about. 8-bit rendering with linear workflow really gives you some problems. So upping your data rate out on your renders is a big deal. Working in 32-bit in After Effects as well. let's get the ball rolling, folks. Drop it in the comment. I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on linear workflow and what you think of it. And if you've seen something that speaks to you, that makes sense, please link it as well. This is an educational thing where we're all going to hopefully get out of this transition from linear workflow with more knowledge and more beautiful renders. That's really the goal here. So that's it. Stay tuned for more of these. Hopefully I won't ramble on as much in the future ones, but again, I'd like to hear from you guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in another tutorial, linear workflow, whatever, real soon. Bye, everybody.